I, I come from Britain, an island nation, and so the ocean is very important to me. I think on my list I said ocean and water I'd talk about, but it's too vast. The ocean is big enough without going into all the water stuff. That's another time. So when I was a little girl in Southport, which is on the West Lancashire coast, my father used to encourage me to go in the ocean all the time. And I appreciated it so much. It was so vast, so wonderful. And he would say it would cure anything. If I had a sore on my leg, go in, it's antiseptic. The ocean is so pure and wonderful. I guess I'm very conscious of pollution because also we lived in a small industrial town called Ashton-under-Lyne, and that wasn't by the ocean at all. The ocean was where my family, the rest of my family lived, and we would go for holidays. And that was utopia. But Ashton-under-Lyne was a small industrial town, a cotton town from the Industrial Revolution. And if you walked onto a bridge very close to where I lived, just a few yards down the road, you could count 37 mill chimneys, all belching smoke out. So it was my father's idea that we should move where the rest of his family was, in Southport. But they didn't manage that until I was 18. He was always thinking of going to Southport with the idea of the ocean and clean air and clean everything. Anyway, 80% of pollution comes from the land that's in the ocean. There's the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is off the coast of California. It's twice the size of Texas, with plastic pieces outnumbering sea life, 6-to-1. Now, when I was small, there was no plastic. We had a thing called Bakelite. I'm not quite sure of the connection there, but there was no plastic. Now there's enough plastic thrown away each year to encircle the Earth 4 times. And 95% of Americans over 6 test possible for BPA, which is the stuff, the nasty stuff in the plastic. Tiny plastic beads used in hundreds of toiletries, like facial scrubs and toothpaste, are eaten by the birds and ocean animals, and the fish, and then ultimately us. So, over the last 10 years, more plastic's been produced than over the whole of the last century, and 50% of it is used once. 10% of our total waste is plastic. 35 million water bottles come from America alone. There's such small segments that one bottle's fragments could deposit 1 on every mile of beach in the world. We won't go into how many seabirds, how many animals, how many whales, how many of everything are just killed by eating the plastic. It takes 500 to 1,000 years for plastic to degrade. So that's just one thing that's polluting the ocean. We've got a lot of a backlog. It was up, even in the 1970s, pollution was not even thought about, the ocean. Just throwing stuff in, radioactive waste, sludge from harbors where they were dredging and all that kind of stuff. A lot of it was put in drums so that it wouldn't dilute the ocean. It would be there forever on the ocean floor. Well, I'm not sure if it's there forever. So that's until the 1970s. Protocol was finally adopted in '96. to regulate ocean dumping. Most toxic waste is, as I say, the dredged material. And then, of course, we come to oil spills. Oil spills are a very trendy thing to talk about, especially here in BC, because we have this absolutely wonderful, beautiful, unbelievable paradise of ocean and beaches, and we need to look after that. The oil spills are actually only responsible for 12% of the oil that's entering the ocean each year. Most of it comes from other places, from the land. We talked about, I think I didn't say about the 80% of ocean pollution comes from the land, with the runoff from pesticides and so on. But back to the oil spills. What can I say about the oil spills? Well, over 1 million seabirds are killed by the oil spills every year. The oil that's in the water, not just necessarily from the spills, but just from the runoff. Boats, towns, everything. Just everything gets in there. Oil is the fastest source of deterioration to the ocean, supposedly being more harmful than the trash and waste. As I say, most of it is the result of drainage from the land. It suffocates marine life to death, and even those animals and fish who do survive go through behavioral changes, which damage then the entire ecosystem of an affected area. Then sewage, that's a very topical thing to talk about in Victoria. We have different people putting out different ideas about sewage, some saying that it does not pollute the ocean, but a lot of people think that it leads to the decomposition of organic matter in the ocean. People used to assume that all pollutants would be diluted and disappeared, but they haven't. Their effects can easily be seen as they've entered the food chain. We've got the coral bleaching of the Great Barrier Reef. There's a disconnect between the government's development, sponsored development, such as the coal stuff, coal exports, sustaining the environment. We need to think about the fishing and tourism here. It's just, I don't know, I get so upset, so passionate, I can't even really speak about it all. It just gets so horrible. What are we doing? What are we doing? I take somebody out twice a week and drive usually along Dallas Road and go to Cattle Point and drive around there, and it's so beautiful looking at the sky and the ocean, and yet there's that absolute awful undertow of awfulness that's going on. It just is too big to even think about. I'm getting quite emotional just thinking about it all. The big, big ocean that we're ruining. I don't know, do I have anything else to say? I don't think so.
How has being a raging granny helped you?
I guess it's helped me by channeling my energies a little bit. But in some ways it doesn't work, because apart from the ocean, so many things. You know, you've had a whole slew of people through here talking about all kinds of different things, and so it can get very overwhelming. But because I think we're very strong people, we just keep going. But from time to time, one or the other or whatever of the grannies will say, oh, I feel so depressed because where are we going? What are we doing? It just seems overwhelming. The ocean is overwhelming. You stand there and it's so vast. And you think of all this pollution, these islands of dead islands, and how big they are. So, but it's good to be with a group of strong women, and I guess we help each other out when we get a little down about these things. And I think we nearly, not all of us have grandchildren, but that's at the back of everybody's mind. What are we leaving for these children? What are we leaving? What have we done? It's not what we have done particularly ourselves, it's what people have done before us, and what people are doing who have more power than we have. We can just harness a little bit of power we have by hammering away here and there. But because you've had a whole slew of people in here today talking about so many different things, a lot of things to hammer about. Anything else you'd like to ask me? Or?
That's good.
Okay.